Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Let me ask you something real quick. How many times have you poured everything you've got into someone who barely put in any effort? You showed up, you cared, you stayed loyal even when it was clear they wouldn't do the same for you. And now, maybe they're gone, or maybe you're the one who finally walked away. But one thing is for sure, now you're left with nothing but silence. And let me tell you, silence is powerful. At first, it's uncomfortable, right? There's this itch to reach out, to say something, to fix it all. Your mind keeps replaying every moment thinking, could I have done something differently? What did I miss? And then the questions start flooding in. Do they even care that I'm gone? Are they thinking about me at all? And deep down, a fear creeps in. What if I've already been forgotten? But here's the truth. Silence, in this case, is your secret weapon. This isn't about getting back at them. It's about taking back your power. It's about recognizing that silence doesn't mean weakness. It's strength. When you choose to stay quiet, you send a message louder than any words could ever convey. The absence of your presence hits them harder than you think. You see, people get used to having you around. They take for granted that you'll always be the one to reach out, to repair things, to make them feel better. But when you stop doing that, when you step away and stop chasing, something powerful happens. They are forced to confront the reality that you're no longer there to make things right. And that, my friend, is when everything starts to shift. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." When you choose silence, they're forced to sit with themselves. No distractions, no reassurance from you, just their own thoughts and their own reality. And that's when it hits them. Your absence is deafening. It becomes impossible to ignore the weight of their choices and the void you've left behind. In today's video, we're diving into the 5 stages that unfold when you decide to go silent after a one-sided relationship. By the end, you'll see exactly why silence is your most powerful response. And before we dive in, I want you to drop this in the comments. My silence is my power. Let's get started. Number 1. The wake-up call. At first, they don't even notice your silence. To them, it's just another pause, something temporary, a chance for you to cool off or give them space. They assume this will blow over, that you'll eventually reach out like you always do. After all, you've been the one putting in all the effort, checking in, mending things, even when they barely did the same. In their mind, they hold the power. They're certain you'll come back because, well, you always have. But then something shifts. The hours drag into days, the days stretch into weeks, and suddenly, the things they took for granted, your presence, your messages, your care, are gone. They grab their phone, expecting to see your name, expecting that text, call, or even the smallest sign that you're still there, still thinking about them. But nothing. And that's when it hits them. This isn't just a temporary phase. This is real. That silence you've embraced isn't some manipulation tactic to get their attention. It isn't a temporary stunt to get them to realize what they're missing. It's a powerful message. A message that says, I'm done giving my time, my care, and my energy to someone who never valued it. At first, they might brush it off, thinking you'll cave. Maybe they'll tell themselves, they're just being dramatic. They'll come around. But as more time passes, doubt creeps in. What if you've actually moved on? What if they were wrong to think you'd always be there waiting for them? This is where the real shift happens. Not just for them, but for you too. In your silence, in your decision to stop chasing, you begin to see things with clarity. You start to realize how much of your energy you spent trying to keep something alive when it was never being reciprocated. You notice how often you ignored the red flags, how much you tolerated just to keep the connection going. And for the first time, you see that the love you were giving wasn't being returned in a way that truly honored you. But here's the powerful part. With time, you begin to feel peace. Not immediately, of course. It's tough at first. You may still be tempted to break the silence, to reach out, to explain. But with each day that passes, you start to feel a little lighter. The emotional weight of waiting, of wondering, of second-guessing begins to fade. You remember who you were before you were caught up in their world. And here's where the panic sets in for them. Because now they realize your love, your attention, and your presence was never a guarantee. It was a gift you freely gave, something they should have cherished, if only they'd seen its value. But now they're left with nothing but the emptiness they created. They replay old conversations, scrolling through old messages, hoping for a sign, a clue that you're still there, waiting for them. But all they find is silence. And you've taken your power back. Because the truth is, the people who never truly valued you will only understand your worth when the silence speaks louder than anything you could have said. So, I'll ask you this. Will you let them pull you back into their world, or will you keep choosing yourself? Number 2. The indifference stage. Once you realize they don't deserve another ounce of your energy, something remarkable happens. You stop caring. You stop checking your phone, hoping for a message from them. You stop wondering if they miss you. You stop obsessing over their every move, decoding their silence, or monitoring their social media posts. That emotional roller coaster that used to control your every mood finally starts to slow down, and eventually it stops altogether. This is where true strength is built. Indifference is more powerful than hatred, more powerful than love, and stronger than any emotion they thought you'd feel. They might have expected you to react, maybe to lash out, beg for their attention, or send long emotional messages about how hurt you are. But you don't. And that silence, the complete lack of reaction, they never saw it coming. As long as you were emotionally invested, whether in love, anger, or even frustration, they still had power over you. They knew they could occupy space in your mind, push you, pull you, get a reaction. Even when you were upset, you were still engaged, and engagement in any form meant you still cared. But when indifference takes over, you break free. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is exactly where you are now. You've realized you have power over yourself. Their behavior, their choices, and their absence no longer concern you. You don't waste time wondering if they're happy without you, if they regret their actions, or if they'll ever come back. Deep down, you know it doesn't matter anymore. While you're moving on, they're starting to feel the weight of your silence. At first, they might think you're just playing a game, that sooner or later you'll crack. They assume you'll reach out, that you'll show them you still care. But as time passes, they notice something unsettling. You're not just staying silent. You're thriving in your silence. Maybe you're laughing more, spending time with people who appreciate you, pouring your energy into things that truly fulfill you. Maybe you've even glowed up mentally, emotionally, or physically. You've stopped waiting for their validation, stopped holding on to hope, stopped putting them on a pedestal. And that's when panic begins to creep in. They start to wonder, why aren't they reacting? Why aren't they hurt? Why do they seem happier than before? Because, let's face it, people who take you for granted never expect you to truly let go. They expect you to struggle, to chase, to wait in the background for them to finally realize your worth. But when they see that you've detached, that you've emotionally cut them off, that's when it stings the most. Because nothing is more painful than realizing you no longer have any effect on someone who once cared deeply for you. indifference becomes the final nail in the coffin. It tells them, without you having to say a word, that their presence or absence in your life no longer matters. And that's a feeling they never saw coming. So while they're sitting in their own confusion, grappling with their decisions, you keep moving forward. Because indifference isn't just a lack of emotion, it's proof that you've healed. It's your strength shining through. Number 4. The replacement stage. When faced with the harsh reality of losing you, some people won't take the time to reflect or heal. Instead, they'll try to fill the emptiness with someone or something new. They'll jump into another relationship, desperately hoping that a fresh start will help them forget. They chase the excitement of the unknown, convincing themselves that moving on quickly is the best way to cope. Maybe they'll post pictures, flaunting their new partner, hoping you'll see them happy with someone else. They might even start acting like they've found something better. But here's the unspoken truth. Deep down, they know. They know that no one will ever compare to you. Because you weren't just a passing chapter in their life. You weren't just a distraction or a placeholder to fill a void. You were someone who genuinely cared. You saw them at their most vulnerable, flaws, insecurities and all, and still chose to love them. You gave them a love so real, so deep, that no one else can replicate it. The truth is, they'll never experience that kind of connection again. At first, they'll try to convince themselves that they're fine. They'll tell themselves that moving on was easy, that replacing you didn't hurt as much as it really did. But as time goes on, the cracks begin to show. With you, they never had to pretend. With you, there was no need to put on a facade, no need to chase validation, no need to constantly seek reassurance. You made them feel seen, valued and understood in a way that was rare. And that's not something you can replace overnight. So, what do they do next? They try to force it. They attempt to mold their new relationship into something that mirrors the comfort and depth they once felt with you. But it never works, because what you gave them was genuine, something they can't replicate with someone else. That's when panic sets in. They start to question everything. Why does this new relationship feel so hollow? Why doesn't it spark the same warmth or connection? Did they make a mistake by letting you go? No matter how hard they try to escape it, the truth becomes undeniable. You weren't just an option. You were the option. And now, they've lost you. This realization doesn't always come right away. It could take weeks, months, or even years for them to fully grasp what they let slip away. Some will cycle through multiple relationships, searching for something that even remotely compares to what they had with you. But deep down, they'll always remember you. They'll remember how you made them feel, how effortlessly you loved them, how much you gave, and how deeply you cared, even when they didn't deserve it. They'll recall the safety they felt with you, the ease of being themselves around you. And then comes the crushing truth. You're not looking back. You're not waiting for them to wake up, to realize your worth, or to come running back. Because by now, you've moved on. By now, you've built a life that doesn't revolve around them. And that, more than anything else, is what will haunt them the most. Not just losing you, but knowing that they had their chance, and they squandered it. Number 5. The breakdown or growth stage. At this point, they are faced with a critical crossroads. They can either break down or grow. For some, the weight of their actions hits them hard. They start to feel the full extent of their mistakes, and the silence they once ignored starts to feel like a suffocating presence. The absence of your energy, your kindness, and your unwavering support becomes undeniable. For the first time, they're forced to sit with themselves, without your constant effort to mend things, without the comfort of knowing you'll always be there to fill the gaps. And that's when the truth starts to settle in. they took you for granted. For some, the realization is unbearable. Instead of facing it, they dive into distractions, work, parties, temporary connections, anything to avoid confronting the pain of losing you. They might try to fill the void with shallow substitutes, but no matter how hard they try, the truth is relentless. They can't escape the memory of how much they took you for granted. They'll think back to the moments they had the chance to appreciate you, to show you love and respect, but didn't. And that regret, it will weigh on them more than they ever anticipated. This stage is a breaking point. For some, it might be so intense that they finally realize the one thing they thought they could live without, the very thing they pushed away, was actually the very thing that made their life better. But for others, this realization sparks growth. They will begin to see their mistakes clearly, acknowledge how poorly they handled things, and how much they failed to recognize your worth while you were still there. They might even reach out, hoping for a second chance, hoping to fix things. They may apologize, express regret, and attempt to convince you that they've changed. But by this time, it's too late. Something has shifted within you that they didn't anticipate. You've grown. You've outgrown the version of yourself that accepted breadcrumbs, the one who believed that love meant sacrificing your own worth. You've outgrown the cycle of giving, only to receive nothing in return. You've outgrown the need for validation from someone who never gave you the love you deserved. And the most powerful part, you no longer crave their attention, approval, or presence. You've built a life that no longer revolves around them. This is where the true power of silence lies. It doesn't just change them, it transforms you. When you first chose silence, it might have been uncomfortable. There might have been moments where you battled with your heart, an urge to reach out, explain yourself, or seek closure. But as time passed, you realized that silence itself was the closure you needed. Silence gave you the space to heal, to reflect, and to see the truth. That you were giving so much to someone who never truly valued what you brought into their life. And now, you're free. You've taken back your power, and you've become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The silence that once felt like a loss has turned into the ultimate form of self-respect and empowerment. The growth you've experienced has transformed you, and now you understand that your worth isn't dependent on anyone else. And now you're not just surviving without them, you're thriving. You've rediscovered who you are in ways you never thought possible. All that love, energy, and care you once poured into them, you've reclaimed it and poured it back into yourself. You've built self-respect, confidence, and set new standards for what you will and won't tolerate in your life. You're no longer entertaining people who make you question your worth, who treat your love as something secondary, or who expect you to always do the heavy lifting to fix things. This is what they never saw coming. They assumed you'd wait, that you'd always be there when they were ready to come back. But you didn't wait. You walked away, and in doing so, you became someone they can no longer reach. And now they have to live with the consequences of their choices. For some, this might be the wake-up call they needed. Maybe losing you will push them to grow, to change, to become better. But by the time they do, it won't be for you. It will be for someone else, because you've already moved on. For others, the regret will remain. The breakdown will persist because they will never find another you. They might move on, but they'll always look back. They'll always wonder what could have been if only they'd appreciated you when they had the chance. But none of that matters now, because your silence was never about them. It was about reclaiming your power. It was about choosing yourself, and in doing so, you didn't just walk away from them, you walked into the best version of yourself. Here's the truth. Silence is not about them. It's about you. It's about choosing yourself, protecting your energy, and refusing to beg for love, attention, or respect. You hold the power now, and when you embrace that power, you become unstoppable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks louder than words. Let me know, have you ever used silence to reclaim your power? What happened? If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You deserve the best. Never settle for less. Until next time, stay strong.